Alright, well, we're driving right now to my parents' house, but Jessica had this wonderful idea to do questions and answers, questions about interracial relationships. And I was like, why not? Buy some time, on this little hour drive. So here's some questions, and we're about to, give our answers on these questions. What's the first question, babe?
Backstory before we get started.
Oh.
We can do another video about how Greg and I met and our testimony and how God pretty much saved our relationship. But I think this is an important note for me to say because it's important. I always knew I was going to marry a black man. But Greg, I don't think Greg thought he would end up with someone who was not black. And this is going to be important later on.
This is true. This is very true.
Okay, so I wrote down some questions and we can talk about them. This is our second time recording the video because last time when we did it, it was a hot mess. I don't remember what I said. I was like half asleep when we were driving back from Fresno. So here we go. First question is race a discussion? And I think that's very broad. So like maybe race a discussion in our family or in our marriage? Both.
I would say more so in our family because we're together, so we have that first person contact, with being in the relationship. Other people are really third parties looking into our relationship, no matter if it's our family or not, because my in-laws, her parents, and her in-laws, my parents, are still going to be looking outside in from their point of view, not from being in the relationship. So I would say that they do ask certain questions like, is this big in their culture, or do they do this because that's part of their culture and stuff like that. So race is a topic of conversation, not so much between us, because we've had this conversation 2-3 years ago, and also when we first started dating. So it's not a topic of conversation for us anymore after we've been together so long. So, but for our families, now that we're married, been married for 4+ months, it is a topic of conversation even more and more. And we have a son too, so they want to intertwine both cultures into our son. Takes a village to raise him. So yeah, that's just my little spiel.
So yes, race is a conversation, but not in a sense like we're talking about like what the TV, I guess, or what the news outlets say about race. I think it's just really important for both of us, for our son to be aware that he is mixed and that his skin is different color than everyone else. But it's also not one of those things where we're like constantly telling him like, oh, you look different than other kids do. So it is a discussion, and I think that it's important to be talked about because of things that go on nowadays. And if you turn your cheek to it, I think, to me personally, and this is just me, I'm not speaking for anyone else, I think it's just ignorance. Like if you just turn your cheek to something that is so obvious, I don't know. And I can't do that because I am married to a black man and I have a black son, so I can't do that. So yes, race is a conversation. I've learned a lot over the last years of being with Greg, and I was raised in a bubble, and then I met him, and he kind of just like showed me different things.
I popped the shit out that bubble. I was like, you about to
which I'm very thankful
today.
for, because, and this just goes back to my point that I said earlier about me knowing I was gonna end up with a black man my whole life. I knew that, but there was no one else that was black that I dated that ever embraced their blackness the way Greg did.
Let's break this down, hold on, because she said she's always been a black man. She was with one little drop of black, you're black, but she was with she was never with a full black man. I'm full black. I ain't got no other I'm just full black. Both my parents are black, so she got the whole bomb entendre on her compared to where she was at in her community, where she was dating biracially black kids that really didn't embrace their black side. Or
yeah, and one of the guys that I dated that was mixed, he didn't like being black, so he was one of those.
A lost brother. It's okay. It's okay, Kanye. We'll get him out. We'll get him out. It's okay.
So yeah. So that is that. And so then for me, it was really important to learn that. And I think for Greg, to even consider being serious with me, like like moving forward in our relationship before we got married, I think it was really important to him that I understood what it really meant to be with a black man and have a black child and be a black and an interracial family.
Because I know we kind of going on a little rant, but we just have this conversation with y'all. Before Greg was born, you know, I was telling her, I was like, you know, I'm gonna have to have a talk with him when he gets a certain age about, you know, how to act. And most people, a lot of African
I was not about it. I didn't understand why.
Anyways, yeah, she didn't. I don't know why. I don't know why she didn't understand, but a lot of black men know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the talk. You know, I'm not talking about the talk for other women, you know, birds and the bees, or whatever they call it. But I'm talking about the talk when it comes to how to conduct yourself in public, respectfully and properly, especially when you're a young black male driving in a car. You know, my dad told me never wear a hat when you're driving in a car. I'm a grown man now, so it's like I'm not worried about anything like that. But because I know what I'm doing. I'm a grown man. But when you're a teenager, you know, anything can spook you out. You know, my dad told me never drive with a hat on. You know, always keep both hands on the wheel. If a cop does ever pull you over and approach you, you know, and always say yes sir, no sir. You know, answer it firm, answer respectfully, and be straight to the point. You know, and that was one thing that Jessica did not understand at first. So I had to let her know, like, he's going to. I hope not. Let me say this. I hope he never experience any discrimination for his race, but you have to prepare for those type of things, especially being a black man. And that's one thing I told her that she's gonna have to wake up and realize, because you don't want to ever get a call or anything like that our son didn't make it home. And I feel like that is my responsibility as his father, that I need to instill that in him and teach him how to conduct himself in public. Right now, you know, he's 3. He don't need to worry about that stuff. But as he gets older and older, and, you know, then he starts, you know, behind the wheel and driving by himself, you know, he's going to high school, you know, then he's going to be the person that he is. Already he's very he has a lot of character already. So
he's going to stand out.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, he's a Watson. You know, he's standing now, he's a Watson. No, I'm playing. But that's just my thing. I need to instill certain things into him as his father.
Yeah. Okay, the next question is, do the differences in your culture cause any conflict?
Only one conflict, and I think it's just Jessica's family, in the sense that they always, her sisters and her talk all day, every day, right? I don't understand it. This is gonna sound sad, but black people, do we really ever talk to our family all the time? Only time we really ever see our family on 2 events. Sad to say, but funerals and family reunions. We don't really need to talk to our family or extended family that often. Jessica's always talking to her sisters. I don't see it as a conflict, but that's one thing I do notice a big difference in myself and herself. That she talks to her family all the time. And I talk to my brother, my sister, my mom and dad, but I don't talk to them like literally an ongoing text message of talking from sun up to sundown. And literally, they see each other hang there every day. And they're together every weekend. So I'm like, golly.
And not that bothers Greg, but I think what the part that creates conflict is that I almost expect him and his family to be the same way. Like, do you guys not talk about these things? Or like, my mom will find any reason just to have all of her kids over under the same roof to be together. And for Greg's family, it's kind of different. Like, Greg's mom and parents are like, well, they're grown, they're adults, they'll come when they can type thing. Because we have a son, it's a little different now. Like, we do try to see them as often as possible. But that's why it creates conflict, because at times I almost expect his family to be like mine, and I have to remember that we were raised completely different. You know, like, my parents migrated here. I'm a first generation person living here, being born here, and Greg, they've been here for years and years. So a lot of that has to do with how people are, and, you know, what they do, and just culture differences. And so that's where it creates conflict, and it used to create more conflict before. One example is like when we have barbecues or family functions or anything like that, we don't ask for help. We kind of just expect it. Like, we know we can count on our family. And for Greg,
okay, before I say what I'm about to say, black people, what did your mom used to tell y'all back in the day? A closed mouth don't get fed, right? So what I'm saying by that is, if you want me to help you, clean up, of course I'm going to the barbecue. I'm going to bring a dish, and I'm not talking about just bringing utensils or chips, that cheap stuff. I'm going to bring, some type of meat or some type of serious side dish. But when it comes to cleaning up, I will make sure I clean up my portion. I'll make sure that what I brought is clean and things like that. But if you want help on cleaning up, which I have no problem doing, all you have to do is ask. Because I would say in the black culture, a closed mouth don't get fed. Now that sounds kind of messed up, and like, oh well, you're being, selfish, or I don't know what it could sound as, but it's not rude or anything like that. It's just that if you do want somebody's help, whether that be at the barbecue to help clean up, or even if somebody in your family moved, and you want them to help you move, you don't expect somebody to offer their time to help you. You can just say, like, if you're free, I really appreciate, can you help me? Closed mouths don't get fed. The worst the person can say is no. Then you just move on. But if you don't say nothing at all and you expect anything in life, you're never gonna get what you expect. That's just how I was raised.
Yeah, and we were not. Like, you offer help, you get somewhere, you say, how can I help? What can I do to help? What can I bring? So yeah, that's the only part that it creates conflict. Culture differences, anything else. Although there are a lot of things that we do that I'm like very, very enrooted to Hispanic culture, I feel like for the most part, we've adapted to the American lifestyle and culture, because there's a lot of other things and thoughts and stuff, like the fact that we had a child before I got married. That would have been a big deal. Like, if we were in Mexico and we were somehow together, like, that would have not been allowed. If we were still living in Mexico, my parents would have definitely taken us down to the church to get married, like a lot of things like that. But we've adapted, I feel like. So for the most part, I don't think it creates conflict. That's the only thing that, and we're like a regular marriage. We're not like off a different planet, but we are different because we're interracial.
Sorry, this video is getting kind of long. It's alright. We just rambling on. Hopefully y'all enjoy it.
Was learning a new culture easier or more difficult than expected?
Well,
wait, let me start off this.
Snap! She's about to go in.
Okay, so back to my point where I was saying that I always knew I was going to marry a black man. On the surface, it's beautiful. It is. Black culture is beautiful. Like, I love how welcoming they are. I love how they help each other out. They come together quickly. It's very similar to the Hispanic culture in that sense, but I had no idea what it really meant to like really date a black man and embrace his blackness. I made a point the other day, and there's this girl that I used to be friends with, and she's always like, oh, couple goals, this and that, like all this good. She's Hispanic and she likes black men, cool. But like, don't just like them because of the way they carry themselves, or the way they dress, or the way they talk, or how they dance, the music they listen to. Like, love them and care about them and want to be with them because you love them, like, wholeheartedly, in full, their blackness and everything. So I'm glad that I was willing to learn that about Greg and embracing that, because that made us stronger. And like, talking to his dad and his parents and having those conversations, like, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable with having these conversations. So that was the difficult part, was really like, oh, like, why are we talking about this again? And like, there were times when I would tell Greg, like, we're not going to talk about this in front of Greg, and he'd be like, okay, that's what you think, but yes, we are. And there would be times when like it would get in your, yeah, that's true, huh? There'd be times where like him and his family would be talking about things, and like I would get up and walk away, like, to go to the bathroom, but truth was is that I didn't want to hear it, because again, it was one of those things, like, it didn't apply to me, but without realizing, like, yes, bitch, it did, because you are going to end up being with a black man, so it does apply to you, and you're going to have a black child.
This is back when he was cooking in the oven.
Yeah. And the thing is like, when you hear when you hear about people who do things, or like a crime or something, and it happens to be a black man, like, they may be mixed, but they're not going to categorize him as a mixed intermixed man. They're going to say he was a black man. So my son is going to be categorized fully embrace his blackness and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. But everything else I love. I just gotta learn to make his mom's
Gumbo.
Oh, gumbo.
That gumbo, but you smack it. But for me, it was easy. You know, black folks, we just adapt. We just adapt to our environment. No, I'm playing, but no, it was easy for me because I was very I don't want to say knowledgeable, but you know, I was around a lot of Hispanics when I was growing up. You know, my dad was friends with a lot of Hispanics, and I was always around them, so I kind of understood the culture a little bit more than somebody that per se never been around that culture. So it wasn't a big change for me. I wasn't expecting. No big change for me. You know, brother just adapted. You know, I'm like a chameleon.
Just besides the fact that we're like super nosy and super involved.
Hella nosy.
That's what Greg, I think, had a hard time with. Like, why do you guys always have to know each other? Like, know everything about each other, or like what you're doing, or this and that. I think that was the hardest part for Greg. Then after a while, he kind of just realized, like, well, it's just her sisters, because that's really what it is. We don't, and that's the thing about I don't know about any other Hispanic family, but my family in particular, like, we will talk about each other to each other, and we are each other's hardest critics, but we love so hard, and we don't always see eye to eye, but we're always heart to heart. And I think that he had a difficult time doing that because we go to each other for everything, like everything, and I prefer it to be that way because me personally, I have a close circle of friends, but there are things that I tell my friends that I don't tell my sisters, or that I tell my sisters and don't tell my friends. So I think as far as that goes, that's just my family. But we're kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I know. Y'all cool.
Yeah. All right.
Last question right here, because this video's done.
There's
Two more? Oh, my bad. It's gonna be a long video, yo.
How do you explain race to a mixed child when we do?
Easy. Do it every day. Son, you're a king. Son, you're black. Son, you're Mexican. Son, you're black and Mexican. And we keep it pushing. He knows the difference. Like, he sees characters that are of darker pigment. He says, oh, Dada, like me. Or, oh, Dada, that's you. Literally, when he sees a black person or a black picture, like a character on a book, he said, oh, like Dada. He's
aware.
He's very aware of everything. You know, kids are smarter than what y'all give it. You know what I'm saying? People say, oh, kids are so smart, but yet they don't want to challenge their intelligence or keep pushing them to, you know, grow. So he's very smart. He's very aware, and this is what I find the coolest thing. Even though he knows he's of darker pigment, because he knows he has a little cousin who's 4 days younger than him, who is full Mexican, but she's way lighter than Greg is. He don't treat her no different. He sees a white kid at the park, he don't treat him or her no different than how he treats anybody. You know, skin color does not matter at all to kids. They don't see no difference. They see, oh, kid, friend. That's literally what they see. You know, and adults need to adapt to that.
Yeah.
Get back to that childhood mentality. Like, oh, somebody that a human, somebody that's like me, somebody that is of my age, or a kid or adult, before you say, oh, he's black, oh, he's Mexican, oh, he's white. And that's hard for me too as well, because, you know, I don't say it's not hard for me, but it's so ingrained into our head that the first thing we see is their skin color.
Yeah.
There's a skin color, so it is what it is. But yeah, Greg knows the difference.
Going off of that too, like, I'm sure there will be one day where Greg comes home and kids can be really mean. Like, that's one of my biggest fears as a parent. I don't know if any other mom can relate, is sending him off to school or a public place where there are other kids and them being mean to my child. Like, legit, I don't care if you're a 4-year-old, I will tell you something. But
She gonna be that crazy mom at school.
But what I am saying in regards to that is, I'd rather it be us teach our son that he may look different than someone else, but it's okay. Like, it's totally fine. And nowadays, especially, it's more normalized to see different skin tones, different dolls. Elf on the Shelf comes in different shades. There's crayons with different colors of skin color. So I think that that's great, and it's a blessing that we have children who are being born into a society where, you know, like, it's more common to see black and brown dolls rather than just white ones.
That's very true. Because and this plays a part, you know, parenting, about embracing your blackness. Santa, he's black. Greg knows that, you know, there's this app where you can call Santa, and the Santa that we call is black. The elf that we're gonna get is black. He's gonna because these are images that they show at a very young age, and when I was growing up, when my parents were growing up, it was always of the caucus descent. You know, it was a person with no pigment. And
so white.
Okay, white, but I was just trying to be, I wasn't trying to offend nobody. But now that everything, we're progressing as a country. So we see more of these fictional characters with pigment. So trust and believe that Santa is gonna be black. The
and
elf
I think that's
is gonna
really
be
important
black.
too for little girls too. We have a friend who they don't have kids. They're getting married soon, and she told me like if you guys ever do have a little girl, all I ask is that you really encourage her to embrace her blackness. I'm sure she'll have beautiful curly hair, and that I'm really excited about if God ever blesses with a little girl, because my hair has always been straight. But I think because she is a girl and she was always taught to embrace her blackness, I feel like it's almost like your duty to do, right? Like to teach your daughter that she's beautiful, and especially when media and everything says
you gotta teach them at a young age they worth before somebody tries to tell them what they are worth.
Yeah, that. So to wrap up that question, we teach Greg, we talk to him about him looking different, but that doesn't matter. You just talk to kids, and one day he'll come home and say, or maybe he won't even come home because we've already talked to him so much about this that he'll be able to answer that by himself, and he'll just come home and be like, oh, guess what happened at school today? Instead of coming home and be like, what do I say about this? Yeah. So, last question. What is the biggest challenge in an interracial marriage? So just like any other marriage, we do face challenges, but I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that I'm Mexican and he's black. We're normal.
Bro, the biggest challenge is going to the damn store. And what I mean by that is people are always looking at us. And I'm talking about our own people. I'm talking about our own people. Black people always staring at me, giving me that type of look, that, oh, he's a sellout type of look. And I'm just like, whatever. I keep it pushing. I don't get offended, but I don't get mad. You know what I'm saying?
I get it too. I get it too. I'll see Mexican ladies and Mexican men like just stare at us. When you look at our son, he doesn't look mixed. Like he just looks like a darker Mexican. But then you stand him, if you put him if we stand all next to each other, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, now I see it. I think you. I love
it when a Mexican may be looking at her and like look all upset or anything. I'd be like, I'd be all doing the extras.
Oh, look at the elf.
The elf.
The shoes.
Babe, you trying to make a video? You talking about this damn elf on that car?
So those are the biggest challenges are like outside people trying to tell us like, oh, you should do this or you should do that, and then sometimes you allow that to get into your head and then you bring it to your in our energy. Anything else? I don't think it has to do anything with our culture besides the fact that those looks. But I feel like the people that criticize us the most are our own people. And when was it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, the very first time I've gotten looks, but for someone to act on it, like we were in Chipotle, we were ordering, remember?
Oh, yeah.
And I was ordering a salad, and the girl was black, and she saw Greg. It always happens. They see Greg, they smile, and then they look at me and they lose their smile. Like, okay, it's fine, feel the way you feel, but like I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. And she was being so disrespectful, and you can tell because as soon as there was 2 other black guys that were standing behind Greg, and as soon as Greg started ordering and they started ordering, like she changed completely. I had to ask her to change my order because she was being so rude. And I remember walking to the table and I was like, wow, like that is my first time that I've ever dealt with that. And Greg's like, well, it's probably not going to be your last, which is sad because I feel like so many people.
First, I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like,
and then I pointed things out.
Yeah, then she pointed things out because I was honestly the whole time we were ordering, I was playing with Greg. I did that all the time. I don't care where we at, but I was playing with Greg, so I wasn't even paying attention to what Jessica was ordering. I was just doing my own thing, and then she started telling me when we got to the table, and then I also looked at the portions, how the way food was given out, and I looked at how so many things that Jessica wanted was missing. You know, maybe it was sad.
It was just little things. And when you're a female and you feel another female giving you dirty looks, like, you get it and then you feel it. It's not like, you know. So I was just like, well, maybe she's just upset. I don't know. I really don't know. And whoever my son decides to marry, our job is to raise him as a good black, no, not even a good black, a good man. And whoever he chooses to be his wife, I'm gonna be happy because that's who he chose, and he will be a good person. So this whole like, oh, they're taking our good black men, like, I don't know, I can't relate. Because I have one, but I can't relate.
I'm alright. You know, I'm alright.
Yeah, so we get it the most too, and yeah, but I think that's it. We're done with the Q&A.
I know this is a very long Q&A. Hopefully I can cut it up, break it up, but if not, you know, it's gonna be like 26 minutes. I hope y'all can enjoy it. Y'all watch it, y'all comment, subscribe. You know, if y'all want any more questions, if you have any more questions for us, you know, just ask. You know, I'll take them, write them down. You know, and probably do another Q&A in the future. So
we're probably gonna do a testimony, because I think that it's really important that we talk about how God saved our relationship.
all right, I didn't know we was gonna do that, but yeah, we can do that for sure, for sure. That's gonna be very long.
No, it won't be long. We'll make it to the point.
This was supposed to be long either. Yeah, you see how long
Okay.
it took. But yeah, comment, subscribe, and Watson Factory out.
Peace.
Yeah, baby, just push the button.